Nancy.
Hey, NC.
How's it
Hey,
going? Hey.
what day is it? Do you
Let's
know?
see. It is 10:19 p.m. on Wednesday, January 17th.
I've been thinking kind of like, is it Thursday? Is it Wednesday?
Yeah.
So,
This January.
yeah, this kind of sucks.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it sucks because I don't know. So we have gotten about a foot of snow.
Yeah.
And it is beautiful. I love the snow. The thing is that we're both juggling work. You know,
Two kids.
we can't really have a snow day, so it's not entirely all fun and games. Although that would be fun, and yeah.
Yeah, you got to do things like worry about your children maybe wanting to go out and sled while there's a moving truck that's stuck on the hill outside your house.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God.
It's like a giant
I
United
felt
truck.
so bad for that truck. It was a super long moving truck. I don't
was
think I've
the
ever
Max.
seen one
It was
quite
the-
that long. And it was going up our hill. And we just have a very slight hill, but it's a perfect sledding hill.
It's an awesome sledding.
It's perfect because it's not too steep. It gives you just enough coasting to keep you going. And the truck would get up it got stuck. They put chains on. You could see them reverse and just kind of slide down. They didn't really have to do much. It's just like, but I was just watching it because I was like, holy shit. Like, if anything happens, like, we are kind of in the, like,
Yeah.
our house. I was, like, looking at the trajectory. It almost looked like if shit happens, it's going to hit this really big old tree and then hit our house.
It's like a domino.
Wouldn't that be the shit?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we'd still be under warranty.
Yeah, we would still be under warranty. But who wants to deal with that when you're going through a foot of snow? No, we've had a fun day. Like, Jet went outside and built a snowman with our neighbors who, oh my God, our neighbors' kids are just, our neighbors are the best, but our neighbors' kids they are just some of the best kids I've ever met in my life.
Yep.
And they're just so nice, and they were playing with Jet and helping him build a snowman, and it was just adorable. And then they, did snowballs and snow angels, and let's see, what else did I do? I baked Phil
That's right.
a birthday cake, so I was like, hey, we're stuck inside.
My birthday's not till Monday, the 22nd.
I have to have a gluten-free diet because my intestines, whatever. And
whatever.
my insensitivity. It's an insensitivity, right?
Intolerance.
Intolerance. No, I think it's anyways. And so I did a yellow cake and I put some lemon in it, and then I asked him what kind of frosting he wanted, and I let him choose, and he chose blueberry. And I was like, okay, I have never done this before, but I cooked the blueberries down, and then I don't have like a food mill or a sieve or anything like that, so I just had to put it in a colander and let it drip down, and it turned out really great. I have to say, I was pretty impressed with my first blueberry buttercream.
And I got my a Shannon Jackson special shrimp and grits.
Yes.
We haven't had shrimp and grits in a while.
I know. I made mascarpone Parmesan grits with baby Bella mushrooms with thyme and shrimp and parsley. It was really good. Yeah, I'm just detailing everything because
It was
I don't
good.
really have the.
Oh, no,
Let's see. What other details can I give you? I am currently watching a mom's
Whoopi Goldberg presents Moms
Yeah,
Mabley.
Mom's Mabley kind of documentary biography thing by Whoopi Goldberg.
I think.
And did you know she was born in Brevard, North Carolina? Look at that!
Nice. See, it all ties in somehow.
Exactly.
It all ties in.
Yes.
What was I gonna say? Oh, okay. So for me, yeah, North Carolina. Yeah, I'm ready, really ready at this point for just my routine. I really dearly want to have a routine again. I'm ready for it. It seemed like once we joined the gym, like that was like it. You notice that? It was like it, we joined the gym and then everything went sideways. So I'm happy to tell people, I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but our very first guest for this podcast was a good friend of ours that Shannon's known for quite a while, and I've known for 20 years, John Howie Jr. I'd started out, met John when he was in $2 Pistols and ended up managing $2 Pistols, and so I'm really pleased to say that John is finishing up a solo record. And there are a couple tracks that are, I think at least one, that on the podcast, the very first podcast, that are going to be on that record.
Yeah.
And
because of your relationship with John, you're close. I have had some early listenings to that album, and it is damn good.
It is great.
It's really good.
So John and I talked, and I'm gonna start managing him again, and just sort of working on this. I'm real excited to work with my dear friend again, and also get to see him play more, get out maybe a little bit more, and see some stuff. So that folks out there that are, I promise you, this is gonna be a really great record. We've heard, Shannon's heard it, I've heard it, and we've only heard. I've maybe heard a little bit more. Shannon's heard like basic.
Yeah, I just heard initial stuff, and I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so I'm biased, and Shannon is biased, but as someone who's listened to John's work for the past 20 years, I can say it's a standout album. So look for that coming in the spring, I think. And for people in Asheville, I'm not sure what the status of the show is right now. But there is a show in Asheville on Friday with John and Reese and Drunken Prayer
in
Asheville.
Where is it?
I want to say the Grey Eagle, but I could be wrong. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then on Saturday, John's playing on Pop of the World Studios in Greensboro, which is a fabulous DIY place. I can't recommend enough. When I was helping manage Richard Lloyd, they played there, and there's a great recording made of that. And there may be something coming of that recording. I'm not sure yet, but fans may be able to hear that at some point.
So is he playing solo in Asheville,
So
or with the
John's
with
Friday
the-
show, his Friday show is his solo stuff, and his Saturday shows with the Rosewood Bluff. So it'll be a
got it?
real treat.
Oh, so it is at. Hold on, I'm looking it up. It's at Fleetwood's in Asheville.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, look for that. Assuming it's still a go. I don't know. I think it's supposed to be. Let's see, since today is Wednesday as opposed to not Thursday.
Right.
It's supposed to be in the 40s tomorrow, sorta. But then
Yeah, but
the
it's
freeze.
12 inches of
Yeah,
snow.
it's
That's
a
a lot of snow to
freeze.
melt.
Yeah. I don't know what
It's supposed to be at 20s in the evening.
I don't know what it's like in Asheville. So.
Yeah.
But
Friday, it's going to be 50 degrees.
so yeah. So I encourage
And
people to
also,
check it out.
speaking of this weekend, Women's March stuff. Raleigh's got some stuff going on, some good speakers lined up. Also, at Hillsboro has like music. Taz is playing.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have music and speakers.
Yeah, I went to that one while you were
right.
in D.C.
I want to go to the Raleigh one, but I don't know. We'll see how things are going. It's just a lot logistically for me to kind of pack it up and go. I feel like for the Hillsborough one, I might could take Dashiell with me. You know, it's a little more kid friendly. It's hard to take a kid to an event where you're trying to listen to speakers. Like, at least with the music and stuff, you can kids kind of can get into that. But,
that so people that don't know us, Shannon went to the National March in Washington D.C. on inauguration. Was it the day after inauguration, or was it? So she was there, and so I was taking care of the kids, and I had thought about going to the one at Raleigh, but it was pretty big, and we have a young kid, so I was kind of uncomfortable with that idea. So we went to the one in Hillsborough, and it was nice.
Yeah.
So, and I think Christina Benson spoke at that.
Yeah.
So
I think she might be playing too.
Teacup Gin.
Yeah.
So that I found was great.
Yeah. So if you listen to this podcast before the weekend, you've got options there if you want to get involved, listen to some speakers, get inspired.
So anyway, on some housekeeping notes, if this is your first or second time with the podcast, welcome. We love you, and this is all great stuff about North Carolina. If you like the podcast, please like our Facebook page, and maybe like us on, review us at the iTunes. I hear that's something that means something. So.
It does? What does it mean?
I don't know, but I keep hearing that.
Where do you hear it from?
I think
Who tells you? Mark Maron?
Tyler Mahan Co.
Oh.
It's supposed to, I think, raise your visibility because you're no longer quite so anonymous. I don't know. Maybe
what does it raise your visibility?
Because if you don't have no reviews, you don't.
Oh, maybe like if you're on the iTunes app, it says it kind of raises it there, like
if you like this podcast,
like trending or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that word.
Yeah. So do it if you like. If not, I have no idea what's.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're missing out. Yeah.
But feel free to email us if you have show ideas or guest ideas. Or if you want to be a guest. You don't have to be a musician or a politician. You can just be a regular old person with some ideas or just want to talk about something. Or just a friend, want to chat. We like to chat with people and meet new people. So.
Exactly. And and I can tell you we're not going to reveal the name of the guest that was supposed to come today because we were trying to schedule it a couple times, but we've got something really special that we can't wait.
Yeah, upcoming. What's our? And we have a Gmail.
Yes,
so if you want to email
ancpod@gmail.
Yep.
We're working on a website. We were supposed to have a meeting about that. Still working on making the meeting happen. This podcast features a friend of ours.
Say his name. I want you to say his whole name.
That's why it's Michael VM, because I can't.
Try.
No,
try.
I'm just going to hurt it.
Try.
All I know is the last is Mantovani, because I know Mantovani, the Italian pop. Well, he's not pop, but
what's the V?
Pop orchestra. Ventuola, or I'm really sorry, Michael.
It's kind of fun though.
It's nice.
So it's like a fun game.
You'll hear.
Michael.
You'll hear.
Montevalli.
You'll hear about the name because it's actually quite a cool story.
It is, and he's written about it too.
Yep. So I did not make the connection until later. I think right before we had met, but Michael was the head. Yeah, I guess he was kind of the lead everyman in the Everymen. Mm-hmm. So, and he was up in the tri-state area.
Yeah.
And then relocated down to North Carolina. He lives down here now, and he put out a great solo record. So there's going to be some songs from that, and it would mixed within the podcast for your listen and pleasure. And it was a great get together, and I'm really glad he showed up. So please enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4. Does our story end? I lost my confidant
losing game, the winning team is time. It's time to turn, time to change, time to learn to rearrange. In those dark rooms I hear your voice and sometimes wish we had a choice. For a while I see your face and I wish that I could take your place. Reality that all I see is you never coming back to me. Around the bend, I think I see a light, and something down inside just knows we'll be alright. But then I face the facts and learn we're left here all alone. Just have to come to terms with y'all never coming home. It's a time to turn, a time to change, a time to learn to rearrange. In those dark rooms I hear your voice and sometimes wish we had a choice. And for a while I see your face and I wish that I could take your place. Reality that all I see is you never coming back to me.
Okay, we're here with Michael VM, or as I was told to tell him, what the hell was that? You know what? Before I had turned it off. We're just gonna roll.
Just
with
roll
this
with
and
it.
say, this is Mike.
Mike, yes, this is the Michael VM would be the Usted form. This is
Right, right. We were having this whole discussion about the last name.
We're on to the
So-
2 form now.
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, I had the thing with the Venables. The last name is everybody seems to think that I own the restaurant.
Right.
Or Cardboard was actually called Venable. It was a Milltown.
Really?
And apparently, there was a textile family.
Really?
And I was like, no, I'm not that dude.
Not that guy.
Well, I don't know.
Are you from here?
No.
So you just moved to a place where?
I originally lived, like in Virginia,
Okay.
most of my life, and like the closest I was Blacksburg and Roanoke.
Yeah.
So I knew all about Chapel Hill and all
Right.
that stuff. But yeah, I have that I'm aware of because I didn't know who my grandfather was. I don't think I have any connection, and I tell you,
Because it's not a common name.
I don't know. Okay, so here was the thing. I'd say I don't know. I seem to be bumping into more people, but I don't know if that's just the connectivity
Right.
of the internet and
Right.
everything. Where you're like, oh, there's another Venable.
Yeah.
Huh. Or you Google yourself.
Right.
Now I did find another Phil Venable. I found his mugshot. he looks pretty rough.
Luckily, I'm the only. Well, not luckily. It's I am the only person on earth with my name.
Well, yeah. So there's no way you can deny.
Right. Right.
That wasn't that. That was the other Michael.
The other Michael Ventolo, exactly. So yeah, so my father is Mantovani, and my mother was Venutolo, and then when they married, she took his name and kept her own name, becoming Venutolo Mantovani.
Okay.
My sister took her husband's name when she got married, so she's no longer Venutolo Mantovani.
She's what?
Hugelmeyer.
Whoa.
It's a Dutch name. So when my mother passed away,
Uh-huh.
I then became the only Venutolo Mantovani in the world. And Emily, my wife, has not taken my last name, which I fully advocate for because
Yeah.
it's a fucking pain in the ass.
Yeah, I don't see that as I've never quite understood the debate about that because it's always like I'm not going to take someone else's name. Why should
Right.
women just because they get married?
Right, and the weird
that.
we're we're as I was saying, we're about to have our first kid, and he's going to have my name
Uh-huh.
only because of the uniqueness of my name. If I had another name, last name,
Smith.
I would totally advocate for the boy to have his mother's name,
Right.
Because she's done all the work.
Totally. Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So, but because now there will be two of Venutola Montavanis in the world.
Right. You're trying to get somebody on the team.
Exactly. I'm trying to repopulate.
Right. You gotta
As I once wrote in a story, I'm like Jersey Shore's Chingachgook. I'm like the last of the
Right.
the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, exactly. So, so your dad's not alive either.
No, he is.
Oh, he is.
I don't know why I said was.
Okay.
He is. He's still Montavani.
Okay.
And he would always laugh when kids in town would call him like Dr. VM or like Mr. Venutola Montavani because he's not. That's not.
And it's just there's just no relation to the Italian. What would you call that? Soft symphonic composer.
Yeah, I guess so. No relation.
50s. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, dun.
Lounge? No, he wasn't
Lounge.
loungy. I guess he was an orchestral guy.
Lounge orchestra. Is that a new genre?
Lounge
You should really be trying to do that.
No relation. I would. I'd probably have a little bit more money.
Oh yeah, no, I'm because I don't know who my grandfather is. I keep hoping to get that, letter from that lawyer that says.
Well, don't you get the email from the Nigerian?
Oh, I do
prince
get that a lot.
yeah,
I
it's-
do get a lot of that, but I'm always waiting for that, to get that thing from, you had a great uncle who made his fortune in oil, and I get all the money without the guilt.
What was the John Goodman movie where he becomes the King of England?
Oh yeah, King Ralph.
King Ralph. That's what it was.
You were looking for the King Ralph scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I know all my grandparents or knew them, and they were all very
Like, damn, why don't you people get some money?
humble folk,
They're proud.
Yeah.
Proud people.
proud people.
Hardy peasant stock.
You get big time,
Yeah,
big time.
yeah.
Which is most Italian Americans because
Right,
the people in the north didn't need to come to America because they were doing it.
They're pretty.
was
Things
all-
are pretty good
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
See you guys later.
It was all the poor Southerners that had to come.
You want to
over.
come with us? Nah.
No, we're good. We got our
We're fine.
factory.
We're fine. We're fine.
Yeah.
So I first heard of you via. See, I didn't even realize this until I was looking through your bio. Like you were in the Everyman.
Yes, sir. I was.
Or were you the Everyman?
I was not the Everyman, but it was my band.
Okay.
I was the Nexus.
The leader of the band, like the Dan Fogelberg song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For say 7 years.
Yeah, because I remember you guys, and one of the reasons why I guess I didn't think about it, the Everyman, in addition to not knowing you were in it, was this new record has no real sonic similarity.
Except for the saxophone on the second track.
Well, okay, so there's that, but I guess the Everyman was more like a full-on assault.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was a kick the door down,
Yeah,
rock and roll SWAT team kind of vibe.
right. And so you were living up in were you Jersey based?
I was
at that point, or
the
you
band was
living in
the
New
band was
York?
based out of Jersey.
Okay.
But I was living in New York City.
Okay.
But we practiced in Jersey and it
Drive
was-
across the Hudson.
Yeah, exactly. The
Cheaper.
first show, exactly. The first show and the last show were, both in Jersey City, and that was where we never practiced. In the 7 years we were a band, we practiced maybe like 30 times.
Oh, okay.
But when we did practice, our studio was in Passaic, New Jersey, and
Oh, okay.
so we were a Jersey band.
So you probably get the inevitable Springsteen and Sopranos, jokes.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, and it was rough because not rough. I mean, I'm never gonna shy away from anybody comparing me to Bruce Springsteen, but it was
Yeah.
every single word that was ever written about us was these Springsteen acolytes. It's like, well, just because we're from Jersey, and I'm from the Jersey Shore specifically,
Right.
just because we're from Jersey and there's a saxophone doesn't mean
Yeah.
like if you listen to my songs. They're nothing like
They're not,
Bruce
yeah,
Springsteen
yeah.
songs. They don't sound like that.
Common Man.
Yeah. So, but people don't have time, I guess, to listen
You
to.
put, you put a lot of car parts.
Yeah.
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 you put
Yeah.
Car parts.
Which I always thought there was a funny. I forget who it was, but I think it was Chuck Klosterman who I'm perpetually on the fence about. But he had a funny quote one
Yeah,
time.
no, I get that.
He was like, people in New Jersey really believe that after selling out Giant Stadium, Bruce Springsteen goes home and works at the car wash.
yeah.
He's not, but no, it was, so we were a Jersey band.
But of course, you had you must have known once you
course.
got the saxophone
Oh,
player,
yeah.
like, man,
No, it's gonna happen.
yeah, it's gonna
There's
happen.
no doubt,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm happy to. I mean, I grew up, worshiping at the altar. I mean, I grew up on the Jersey Shore in the '80s and '90s.
Yeah,
Like-
you couldn't escape it. There's no hope for you.
No,
whatsoever.
Bruce was king. I mean, we had some
Bruce,
some
as
people
some
might
people
say
say.
I had a Bruce Springsteen themed wedding,
How would that? What is a Bruce Springsteen themed wedding?
which it wasn't a Bruce Springsteen
But,
themed
but,
wedding.
but what would it be?
So we got married at the Stone Pony.
Okay.
And
Well,
we
yeah,
had,
there you go.
And we had the B Street Band, which is a Springsteen tribute playing.
I'm aware of them.
So, are you really?
Weren't they no? Who were the ones that turned down playing at Trump's inauguration?
That's the B Street Band.
There we go.
Yes.
All right.
And
Good for them.
yeah, and so I guess it technically was a Springsteen tribute wedding.
Well, yeah, I'd say you're. Yeah, I don't know exactly what more you
Yeah.
would need.
Yeah. But no, it was it was like I said, like in the '80s. I was born in 1982, so when I was first listening, I mean, the earliest recollections I have of listening to music is Born in the USA.
Yeah. See, I was. When was that a record? 85.
I think
I was
so.
15, and that kind of soured me on the Boss for a long time.
Yeah.
It's only recently that I've and I still don't care for that record because I probably heard it so many times.
Right.
And the production on it is
Yeah.
very, the 80s was a bad time for.
It was an ugly era.
Very bad time for drum sound.
But when you go back to it, or when I've gone back to it at least, and I have many times, it's just like, I think that's one of his best records. In that, just like, I don't know. I think some of those songs, No Surrender, I'm on Fire. They're just so
I'm on
unbelievable.
Fire, the great record.
But again,
Good
if you take those songs and produce them in 1978,
yeah,
it's going to be a much better record.
I have this thought, and I had this discussion with someone about the replacements in "Don't Tell a Soul," which is like there must be some. I bet you there's like a cottage industry you could make of taking like these records that have like good songs that got ruined by '80s production, and then remixing them
Right.
down to essentially really dry drum and bass. There's got to be. You should do that. That should be like the new double disc.
Right,
Like,
right.
This is the unsullied.
Reimagined.
Yeah, yes. There's what reimagined. Isn't there? There's
without without all the the reverse gate reverb
yeah, exactly.
on the snare drum.
Sheets and sheets of reverb.
Yeah. Have you heard that? Cheap Trick did something like that with Steve Albini. Have you ever heard
Yeah,
that?
yeah, and it's got. Is that the one that's got? I Want You to Want Me with clarinet.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that.
They almost like a Zydeco version of it. Like
Yes.
they reimagined the whole.
Yeah, so there you go. Okay, Bruce Springsteen, if you're listening,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you are.
He is. He's a big fan of
He's a
mine.
big, he's a big fan of you. Big fan of Hey and C.
That's right. Exactly.
Exactly.
He heard that I had a themed wedding.
Right.
so.
Right. So okay. So when did the Everyman stop?
Last May,
Last May. Okay.
I had moved down here. It'll be 3 years ago in May.
Okay.
So I had been down here for for a year.
Uh-huh.
And it had nothing to do with proximity. Like I said, we never
Like a
practiced.
long distance relationship kind of
And
thing.
we never wrote songs together. Like I would write the songs,
Yeah.
and we would get together, and I would just
Yeah.
make up your part. Like
Right.
so, us being within proximity to each other was never the issue, because that's what a lot of people ask. Like, well, is it because you moved to North Carolina? But it was more just we kind of hit a ceiling.
Right.
Everything we did, every record we made, every EP we made, we were trending upward. And when we put out our last record, it just kind of plateaued.
Right. Right.
And, I'm at the time I was 33, 34, and I was the youngest guy in the band. So it's like when you're that old, you don't have time to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. No, I get you.
We had to keep trending in that direction.
Right. It's got a shelf life.
Yeah. I mean, the oldest guy in the band was like 41 at the time. And it's like, are we going to go back to the drawing board? Are we going to write a new record? Are we going to record a new record that's going to not come out for another, 18 months? And then cross our fingers and hope that we... So
No,
it was just time.
I get that.
It was time.
Yeah, I've played in bands before, and sometimes it's not necessarily if you have actual momentum, but if you don't feel like you have momentum, then you're kind of like, what? I mean, unless you're having just a superbly awesome time, and you don't have to worry about things like money,
Right.
or your health,
Right. Right.
Which as you get older, it's
Yeah.
like
And a lot of
sleeping
the
on floors and driving in a van.
that
all
was the other
time
thing.
Really
Like
just
that
takes
got
a
old
toll.
after a while. It's just because there were six of us, and just six. Well, there's one small female, but then there were 5 enormous dudes.
Right.
Big men,
Right.
sleeping in one tiny hotel room, snoring.
Yeah.
It was
Well, I've done that.
Yeah, by the end, it was like we were a wrecking crew in all
Yeah.
manner of the term. Like it wasn't just on stage. And after a while, it was just like,
This is getting a little toxic.
but no one ever
Not
had,
a bad
no one ever
way.
had beef. There was never bad blood. I can count on one hand, the amount of fights we got in as a band. It was the most harmonious group I've ever been in, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they kind of ceded control to me. It was not a democracy. It's like,
It's funny. I don't think, for all those things that you read about, like, I don't know, like The Who or somebody physically punching someone else in a band, I rarely have I actually encountered that. It's just like, I think musicians are more passive aggressive. Like, they'll talk about you
Right.
behind your back,
Right.
but rather as opposed to like one of those deals where, adultery punches Townsend and knocks him out.
Yeah.
I would assume that only happens when there's a lot of money involved.
a lot of money, a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
No, in the circles that we trade in, like you said, it's a lot more passive aggression.
I can't have that big of an inflated ego, if you're playing, I have the Kraken. Not to say there's anything wrong with the Kraken,
Not at
but
all.
it's not like
Check
it's not
yourself.
Wembley. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And it's funny because I did see, so I worked in the record industry for many years, and I still do in some ways. But you would see those egos on these bands that are just like, you're not nearly as big as you think you are, and you're selling, you're doing well, and you're making a living as a musician, but like you've only kind of gotten to a certain point. So
Right.
who the hell do you think you are? And we
Yeah.
saw a lot of that, just because they got their one play on, Stephen Colbert, or I guess it was like
No,
Letterman when I was there.
Well, the thing that's always, I've worked with some folks that are genuine, legends, like from either television or Husker Du and something like that, and even that kind of manner of achievement does not guarantee like a, I don't know, penthouse in Gramercy Park kind of thing.
No way.
So when people get all inflated about that, it's like, imagine. Being in like like I said, like a legendary band, in the Rolling, whatever. I guess Rolling Stone matters for some people, but
Right.
one of those top 100 of all time, and there's still some people I've known from that band that still struggle to pay rent,
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever. It's,
No, I know people who are
life gets
currently
in the
in
way.
some of the biggest bands around, and they do well, but they live very modestly.
They have to, because you never know when that ride's going to end.
Exactly.
Unless you've and of course nowadays. Even I guess it used to be the deal was like you had publishing.
Right.
I got my publishing. That's not really a guarantee of anything anymore.
I just got my
because-
quarterly publishing statement, and it was like that's $1.65 or something.
Awesome.
So,
And it was like a the hundredth of a cent from that was like from Spotify.
oh, barely, probably even that. I've never had much of a presence.
Digital sales. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I don't care to do that kind of work. Like, I'd rather just play shows. I
Right.
know a lot of people who are very savvy with that stuff, who do the playlisting and who promote themselves, and I'm just not.
It's
I'm a dinosaur when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, I see a need for the social media thing in the sense of like if you want to have that presence and you're not into it, definitely hire somebody that's into that, because I guess it does something. I'm not really sure what.
Yeah.
But people it seems to work for some folks.
Totally, absolutely.
But,
but that's the luxury of like this solo record that I just put out myself. It's like I'm not beholden to do that stuff. you know?
So let's talk about that. I mean, one thing that struck me, we talking about, I guess, your mother losing your mom.
Sorry, I'm
So that's fine. I lost my mom to cancer. And
I'm
we
sorry.
were talking about The Fog.
Right.
I could relate to that because I remember, I guess, spending about a year just kind of feeling a little, off balance.
When was that?
That was 2004.
Yeah.
And it took, I guess like what a lot of people say, the same thing with breakups and all that, or, you got to have a year.
Right.
You got to go through all those anniversaries of, birthdays and holidays and whatnot. But I just remember feeling, because I guess, they're your parents. If you lose a parent, first of all, there's that one or two people, that have known you from the beginning and they're gone.
Right.
And, you're kind of on the front line without your bud, you know what I
Totally.
mean? Yeah. And
Totally.
that's even if, of course, I was 34, I guess. And, I was a grown man. I didn't need, but you're still like, mommy.
Totally,
You
absolutely.
know, and definitely feeling adjusting to that reality.
Yeah, and it was like I have a strange relationship with death, I guess, because I grew up in a really small town, a really lower middle class to middle class town. My dad's a doctor, and like we were like the rich family.
Okay.
And like my dad never made that much money. Like he was a small town doctor, but just like it was so, that we were
The prestige of the position.
right,
as well
because
as,
most people in my town were fishermen or clambers or mechanics. It's extremely blue collar. And a lot, the opioid epidemic that is now nationwide has been going on in my hometown for 3 decades now.
Oh yeah, no, in Southwest Virginia, it's like that too.
So we, when I remember as early as like 7th grade, 8th grade, we had kids overdosing, or just making bad decisions, getting drunk and going for a joyride and wrapping around a tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've seen plenty of friends at a very young age go in the ground, and I thought that I kind of had a handle on the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then going through it with my mother, it was like it was a whole new element. And I've had people very close to me. I've never had a very, 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 very close friend. They're all still alive, thank God. But when my mother passed away, it was like the closest person that had ever, by a mile. And it kind of it made me rethink the whole thing that I thought I had. And it was weird. It was strange. Because every time a friend died, it was like I knew what to do internally with my emotions and with my psyche. Because I had gone through it so many times. But then when my mother died, that whole script was flipped on its head.
Yeah, you only got one mom.
Yeah. And not only that, but just seeing her go through what she went through. And same with your mom, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It used to be like, I wish she would just get hit by a bus. I'm not sure, how people relate to I took care of my mom the last couple of weeks, while she was in hospice. And I'm not sure if everybody can get behind the statement, but there is probably a point in most people that are in a similar situation where you're actually wishing that your loved one was dead. Oh, yeah.
Because what you're seeing and what they're going through is just like hell on earth.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure there's a certain amount of selfishness in it, in the sense of like, I want to be spared the sight of this.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a fairly generous thought. Totally. But it's brought about it's thinking about those things. It's like when someone asks you what it's like to be married or have a kid. You can tell them, but you can't necessarily communicate that. Right. And someone passing, especially someone like that, and I was there when she passed, and that's a pretty awesome moment. And I mean awesome, not like woohoo, but like it's good.
I love when people use that word correctly.
It's good and bad. It transcends everything that you've previously thought about. It transcends language. It transcends emotion. It's just this presence, and it doesn't adjust to you. You adjust to it.
Totally.
And it's something, and you can never really tell somebody about that. But it is, it's profoundly. It's like you move to a different planet,
right? And it's I've always in the years since my mother died, like whenever someone loses a parent, which I've dealt with a lot, friends, because we're getting to the age now where it's people's parents start dying,
right?
And my refrain is always like, I'm thinking about you. That's all. Because like when my mother died, like I didn't want to hear your fucking tagline. I didn't want to hear that she's in a better place. She's not in a better place.
Right.
The better place is with her husband and with her kids, and her grandkids.
Yeah.
Or God only gives us what we can handle. Or
I don't believe that was terrible.
There are so many people that I just wanted to smack in the mouth, and I know they were only coming from a good place.
No, yeah.
So,
totally.
so that's hey, listen, man, I'm thinking about you.
Right.
If you need anything, I'm here. Because, like you said, like you can't explain it. There's no way.
You don't know where I'm at. Don't even bother pretending you do.
Totally.
And
and
just get real.
Right. And what I found was very helpful, and what I try to express to my friends and stuff when they're going through that is like, you want me to do your laundry? You want me to come? You want me to come? Wash your cars? Like, what do you need that you can't handle right now?
Yeah.
And that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
You want to go get drunk? Let's go get drunk.
Yeah.
You want to talk about mom? Do you not want to?
Yeah.
But again, like you said, it's like unless someone's gone through it, it's kind of impossible to explain to them. But it's funny you mentioned the thing about the last couple of weeks, because I I've actually written a manuscript that I'm currently polishing and trying to find a home for, and it's about the last 2 weeks of my mom's life, because I was the same way. I held vigil with my family, and there was one point where my mother asked me to kill her.
Oh yeah.
And she asked me, and she could barely speak, and she was so weak, and she died like 2 days later, and I sat on the bed next to her, like with my hands on a pillow,
Right. Thinking about it.
am I gonna fucking kill my mother?
Yeah.
And thinking like like I want to do this, but I can't do this.
Right.
But I want to.
No, I definitely can remember that. I in this spirit of sharing, I remember my mom had breast cancer and it metastasized down the spine. So she, at some point, when she became bedridden, she could not get up without it causing agonizing pain. But she wanted to get out of bed.
Right.
Because, my mom was a fighter. And she, up until the last couple of weeks, she thought, if I do yoga. She had this idea that she would do yoga. And I'm sure some of it was because it had moved to her brain, too. But she kept trying to get out of bed, and I had to restrain her.
Yeah.
And that was just like, having to think of these thoughts about someone that, gave you life and just that stuff. It was just, again, it is so intense. I don't even know what I was feeling at the time. I can only look back and think about what I'm feeling now.
Totally.
Because it was just way too much to handle.
Totally.
It's like everything was on 11.
Out of body.
In my head. Yeah, exactly. And like
I
you're
see
saying,
myself.
you weren't having a reasoned debate with yourself in the sense of like, well, I'm going to do this. No, you're not. Yeah, I'm going to do this. It's just like everything is happening all at once.
Right. And when I think back on my memories in life, I think back in the first person.
Right.
I see the world as I saw it then in my mind.
Right.
When I think about that, I'm looking at myself in the room. Like I said, it was like it's almost out of body.
Right. Because you clearly can't put yourself back in that spot.
I can't.
Again,
I can't. And I've tried. Because for a couple of months I went to therapy, and that wasn't for me.
Oh, I did that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just, I was like, this is a waste of money. For me, therapy is work. Like, I just need to get back to work and work hard, and that's kind of how I've always worked through whatever issues I've had. But
being creative, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
But in that process, it was like I was trying to put myself back in the first person. I couldn't do it.
Right.
It was strange, but
yeah. So that sort of where the genesis of The Happiest Man on Earth sort of came on. Because I'm just going to take a wild guess here and say that title might just is not straightforward. It's a little ironic. Maybe.
Was it the title or the picture that gave it away? On the
no.
cover?
Well, so I would say this, as I saw the picture, right, but I did not think too much about it. And so I burned the CD and I went to go see our friend John Howie play some records at the Kraken last night, and I put it in my car. So I'm driving down 54 in the dark,
right,
listening to this and just being like, "This is sad. He's not happy at all.
Who the hell is he talking? He's not talking.
What a liar!
Yeah.
I was expecting something a little more uplifting." So.
Well, it's the record it exists kind of in two parts, and that's the other thing is like when someone's dying.
Yeah.
And I took a lot of solace in this, and there's a chapter in my book that I wrote about finding solace on the subway, because I was living in New York City at the time, and just looking around the subway and thinking like, get over yourself, dude. Like you think you're the only person whose mother is dying, on this subway car alone. Everybody's got the story. Everybody's got their story, and my wife, who was then my girlfriend, she used to tell me like life goes on, like not get over your mother. In that sense. She would never say that. She's still not over my mother's passing. Those two loved each other. But life goes on. Like you have to. The world doesn't stop because your mother's dying. Yeah. And in that whole process, while my mother was dying, I was falling in love with my wife.
Okay.
So, and it was super complex too because I was falling out of love with New York City, and it was it was these three like extreme emotions, and so The Happiest Man on Earth. It was at the time. I was like, met this woman who changed my life and made me a better person, and that I definitely wanted to marry, and that juxtaposed with my mom, who I was
the flip side of the coin.
Totally.
Right? Yeah.
And then the other flip side of the coin was that like here's this place that I've loved so much my whole life, that I've made my home for the last decade, and it's not what it used to be. And I don't want to wax nostalgic because I hate when people do that, but it's not that it's not what it used to be. It's not what I signed up for anymore.
I think, I can relate because when my mom passed away, I was living up in Washington, D.C., so I'd be on the train. And, the funny thing is about riding the train, or I guess the bus, if you're riding public transportation, like, there's always that moment where you're like, everybody else has got it so much more together than me, you know. And you probably think that, 10 times to the one realization.
I think that every day.
Where
now.
you're like, right. But you look at them and you're like, I bet you there's probably someone on this train or this bus or whatever that is looking at me and going, that person right there, they look like they got its own together. You're like, and I'm not sure if there's any comfort in that, but yeah, I remember.
A friend of mine just emailed me from college, and he was like, "How's the most interesting man in the world doing?" He's talking about me.
Right.
I was like, I'm currently like barely self-employed.
Right.
Like I don't really leave the house that much. I go to sleep at 9 o'clock these days. I was like, I don't know who you're talking about, but from his point of view, he's like, I live this fabulous life, which couldn't be further from the truth. We were touring around the country, but I was living as a 32-year-old man on $15 a day.
Right, yeah.
This is hardly interesting. This sucks.
Right, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I think just about everybody's life has this, like, it's like 99% pedestrian, and then, like, that 1% is, like, kind of is it interesting to you? Well, I guess that's all you really need to worry about.
Totally.
But
totally.
yeah, I was 29, and I was touring in a band, and I was 29, and I was sleeping on a dorm room floor at some kid's dorm, and waking up and like going, my back, and like, that did not feel cool, although I'm sure there are people that, hey, Jack Caroline.
But now with, exactly. And now like with, Instagram and shit, it's like people see me on stage opening up for the war on drugs, and it's like, Mike is killing it. It's
right.
Whoa.
Right. This was Mike's one night where he stayed up till 10 or 11, and now he's going to go home, and when he wakes up tomorrow, boy, is he going to feel lousy.
Exactly. So it's but no, that's an excellent point. It's just like you don't really think that people are looking at you like that, while you're looking at everybody else and saying like, man, they're killing it.
Right.
Of course,
they got it. Yeah.
I think that about everybody in my life. Like this guy, and a lot of that is a byproduct of what I do and what we do, and in that, like, I know people who are very successful in the worlds of art and music.
Yeah, me too.
And you're like, oh man, if I could just get to where, but then they're like, if I could just,
get off this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some people that, like, for me, I mean, I don't know, at this point in my life, I guess I'm like, I mean, sure, it'd be great to be touring and making a lot of money touring,
Yeah.
But then I'm like, I'm really not sure if I like to travel anymore that much, or
Right.
I'd be away, I'd miss out on stuff, So there is that part, and so I look at some people that are, like you see their record come out and all these tours, and this is sold out and that's sold out, and I know them, and then I don't see them for 3 months,
Right.
and I'm like, it kind of sucks because I don't get to hang out and say hey, but I kind of wonder, gosh, what it must be like for them to be, in the same kind of basic hotel room every night, and a club that. No offense to clubs, but they're all kind of constructed the same way,
Right.
The things become interchangeable,
Yeah.
except you,
Yeah.
and then which would be what I would say about living in a place and being, you're done with it, I mean, we moved on parallel paths in the sense, like with you in New York and DC, for me, is like, it's not a reflection on the place, at least I found it, but it was just like, I was done. Whatever I wanted, I became a different person who didn't need what that place had to offer anymore.
Totally. And that's not to mention like the reurbanization of America has led to higher cost of living in the cities.
Oh my God.
And it's like, I don't feel the need to live in this rat race and in hindsight, I probably should have looked more into sustainable employment down here before I just moved on a whim.
No, I did that too. But I will say this though: I spent a good couple of years trying to find sustainable employment.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like one of these "you can't know until you go" kind of deals. And finally, I was just like, you know what? I can't take it up here anymore. Yeah. I will cash in whatever I've got.
Well, because I'm telling you, I see every day, on different like music industry record message boards. There's all these job postings in New York, and I would have had a job in a week, back home. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to live like that anymore. And my wife is pregnant, and we keep thinking like, imagine if she had to take the subway to work every day in the state that she's in right now. She's 8 months pregnant, and she's like, this would be, this is not for us anymore, and I hate nostalgia, in that like, well, I pine for the way things used to be, but things used to suck back then too.
Right.
You're looking at it through rose-colored glasses, but also B, like, it's someone else's time to come to New York. Like
Right,
it's
yeah.
it's their turn now. Like we had our fun.
Right,
I had my fun. I had the most amazing job in the world, and I had the time of my life while I was living there.
Right.
And-
Your young ones in New York City.
Exactly.
You know?
So the whole record is kind of like this trinity of those three things, and there's a lot of kind of imagery about coming down here, moving to this area. Obviously, there's a song called Chapel Hill.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So-
what's that about?
Yeah, exactly. And just kind of like a lot of it, in a lot of ways, it's a love letter to my wife. Just kind of thanking her for being who she is and letting me be who I am.
Right.
But at the same
Yeah,
time,
it sounds like, I mean, based on that, I can't remember the name of the song, but I was reading your notes for it, and just like, you're a very lucky person to have someone so, I guess, in tune to what actually makes you happy, as opposed to,
Right.
misidentifying that.
right.
I mean,
Well, she was the one who told me when we put out the second Everyman record. She said, like if you don't quit your job, and I was working at Matador Records. I had the best job in the world,
Right, yeah.
the best company on earth. Amazing. I love those dudes to this day, and I always will. But she was like, if you don't quit that job and go on tour, I'm going to break up with you.
because you were miserable? Were you?
No, because she knew that I wanted to be playing music full
Okay,
time. It
alright.
wasn't that I was hardly miserable. I was
So did that come as a shock?
not really. I mean, we were trending that way, and the band was doing better and better
Okay,
and better.
alright.
And it was kind of a moment where it was
Right.
like, we can either
Shit or get.
off the pot. Like we
Yeah.
could stay who we are. We could continue to be like the rock and roll band from Jersey City,
Right.
or we can try and make this a real thing.
Right.
Like-
Be the weekend warrior.
Right.
Or, yeah.
Right. And we're like, screw it. We're running out of time. We're all in our,
Yeah,
at that point I think I was like 30. I was like, it's now or never. And we did it. And for 3 years, we toured around the country, playing our asses off.
Yeah.
I mean, and we were touring around when I was still at Matador. It was like, we used to do dumb, stupid shit. Like we would come down to Raleigh for one show and turn around and drive home, or
Yeah, I would think I remember one of those.
we would go to
shows,
Cleveland, play Cleveland on Thursday, and drive home and be at work by Friday. You know,
Man.
yeah.
Yeah,
we-
see, 40, almost. I'm almost 48. That just makes me cringe at this point. Like,
Nope. Me too. And that was 5-6 short years ago. So yeah, that was so she's got a lot to do with kind of where I am and who I am. Of course she does. She's my wife.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and just being down here and kind of being in love with this place that
What was it about it that drew you here?
I always dug it. Well, I grew up on 90s indie rock,
Right.
and this was a hotbed for that stuff.
Of course, yeah.
Archers of Loaf are one of my probably 3 favorite bands of all time.
Oh, okay.
So when I started touring with bands and around college, I did some stuff in high school, but not really. College was when I started playing in bands proper, and then after college, and started coming down here and playing shows, and I just loved it. I just loved how nice people were. I loved the fact that you kind of have, because I have this weird, not weird. I mean, no fascination is weird unless it's weird.
right.
But I have this fascination with the South in general.
Oh, okay.
I love the Deep South. Politics aside,
Were you like a Faulkner or Flannery O'Connor kind of dude? Or...
well, I don't know. Like again, like where I grew up.
It seemed exotic, huh?
Yeah, Emily,
Yeah.
But the town I grew up in, Emily makes a joke that she calls it the South up north, and it's very and people will tell you like, have you read the Springsteen autobiography?
The memoir, yeah.
So there's one part in it where he says something about like there's a lot more cowboy in South Jersey than you would assume.
Oh, okay.
And like that's where I grew up.
Okay.
And there's this weird like hybrid Philly South Jersey accent that almost even sounds Southern, and like it's a strange place. And I think because of that, I always had this weird kinship to people in the South. So, but then again, like I don't know if I could ever really live in the true South. I'm too much of a
So South Jersey to me always struck me as like kind of small town South, but with snow.
yeah.
You know, and I was like,
I mean, I grew up on the beach, so it was like with the snow and the freezing Atlantic
right.
wind.
but yeah, there's some things. I mean, I'm from Virginia and here, which is we're the upper South, I guess.
yeah.
And I've toured in the deep South, and it's really strange when you're say driving past Birmingham and you think of like the 16th Street church bombing, or you're driving through Mississippi and you know, like you drive past, say, Philadelphia, Mississippi, where the civil rights workers were, and it's of course there's not really much in the way of markers for these things,
Right.
Until recently,
Right.
And you're just like, there is a past here that is disturbing.
Which is a lot of the reason why I that's what's kept me from living
Somewhere further south.
further south. And it's not some sort of self-righteous thing. It's just that
No. Yeah, I
for
get
example,
you.
like I made my last 2 records in Muscle Shoals,
Right, yeah.
including this one. And those guys are great, and what they have going there is this amazing thing. But whenever I'm down there, like if I encounter like an old man,
You wonder.
I can't help but think,
Yeah.
oh, who's that sweet, genteel Southern old man who just served me this coffee? And then I think to myself, like, was he the guy pouring syrup on their head?
Right, yeah,
In
yeah.
Greensboro at the sit-in, and saying these horrible things and standing for these horrible things, and I'm, and that's something that I wrestle with a lot.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the South is, maybe it's a starker illustration to some extent of, the duality of human nature, like the capacity for selflessness and violence, I mean, and it just happened in this era that we happen to have lived in to have revealed itself in a very stark way.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's a unique thing, but it is uncomfortable I have grandparents that, they were around during segregation and they didn't see that problem with it. And,
Well, my wife was part of an integration program.
Yeah.
She went to a predominantly black high school
Yeah.
on the other side of Charlotte
Yeah.
that she was bused to because her parents wanted to be part of this pilot program
Right.
to integrate the schools. And you're talking about the 90s.
Right.
Like they're having to force integration into these schools in the 90s.
Right, yeah.
But at the same time, it's like a lot of the thing, what I've encountered with a lot of my friends and family back home is like, oh, you live in the South. So Chapel Hill might as well be Birmingham.
Right.
And I say to them, like, well, that's like me saying, Boston and Philadelphia are the same place.
Right.
You do realize that it's a quarter of the country.
Right, yeah.
And it's a quarter of the country. Not only that, but like it's incredibly nuanced. I mean, even like the difference from Chapel Hill to Graham,
Oh, yes.
or Raleigh, which
Orange to Alamance.
exactly, and not to mention the rest of the South. So it's interesting to me, and that's I don't know. I never really saw myself living out of the tri-state area, but when I met my wife, who was from Charlotte, we started coming down here a lot. I'd been touring down here, and I loved it. And I thought to myself, I grew up on the Jersey Shore. I went to college in Philly. I lived in Rome for a while after college, and I lived in New York City.
Oh, okay.
So outside of Rome, I've never been outside of the tri-state area.
Right,
Not been.
yeah.
I've never lived.
Right.
And I was like, because we were looking to leave the city, and we were looking at Hudson Valley, like upstate New York, and we were looking at the Jersey Shore.
It's really cold up there, though,
It is
I
cold.
hear.
It is cold. And I do miss the cold. I love the cold.
Oh, do you? Okay.
But we were like, if we're gonna move, let's move. Like, let's move and go someplace that we've never been, that we've never lived.
Some drastic.
Yeah, and we thought about the West Coast for a minute, but I hate flying way too much, and I'm way too close to my father, and I couldn't be that far away from him. So we settled on here, and it's cool because it's a mix. It's the charm and the pace of the South with the neoliberalism of the Northeast.
Yeah, no.
It's like New Jersey without all the bastards.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, there's the South,
Right.
and then there's the South or whatever. But yeah, growing up, I lived in Blacksburg, Virginia for a time, which was Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
So it had that, and this was in the '70s. This college vibe, it was rural-ish.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It had some of the great aspects of the space.
Yeah.
And but it had an intellectual, cultural kind of life as well. So and my mom was from a very small town called Mineral, Virginia, which was where the earthquake was in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
The only time it was ever the center of anything. It was an old mining town, and that place is the capital S South in the sense of like people get up and they go do something, and
Right.
then they come home and then they do it again.
Right. For the
and-
next 60 years.
Yeah, exactly. And that was something that I would suspect in the north or in the south, northwest or southeast or southwest. That's a lot of towns.
Yeah.
And there are people that really can do that. I myself am not one. So whenever I've lived somewhere, it's always been important to have, it's got to be kind of homey, but man, like, especially as a musician, like maybe I don't necessarily want to play in a band or go see a band every night, but I want that option.
Totally.
And
not only that, but like, I mean, we had, UNC had 2 Nobel Prize winners 2 years ago, so it's not like this is some, like there are
seed out of our teeth.
But and there are things that are happening here that are having ramifications on mankind. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's really interesting and really cool. But no, I love it. I haven't. My love for this area has only grown by the day. My sister's family loved it so much they moved down here.
Oh, nice.
My dad's moving down here, so yeah, it's
great.
We told him no more after that, though. No more.
It's like
no more Yankees allowed.
Yeah, good luck.
We're the last one.
No, I remember being from Virginia and moving here, and it was like, you're not from around here. Like, I'm from Virginia. Really?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That was in the 90s where the phrase transplant was thrown around all the time, and I think Cary was. What was the acronym for Cary? Central Area
Containment Area for Relocated
Relocated
Yankees. Yeah.
And then
Well, that's what people told us. They were like, "Dude, you should move to Cary. It's all the New Yorkers." I'm like, I moved away from New York
to be away from
New York. I don't want to be surrounded by New Yorkers.
Cary reminds me of like a Northern Virginia suburb.
Right.
It's very. I mean, and if people like that, I mean, my thing was like, why do I want to move here just so I can live that close to someone and pay for the privilege? But yeah, I think Durham was the last exit on the Long Island Expressway, or maybe that was Cary too. I can't remember, but yeah.
Well, they call Duke. They call the UNJNC, right? University of New Jersey, North Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what though? Like living in New York City for as long as I did, and making that place my home, and my wife's home, and the place where we started our relationship. It was like whenever I went out, if anybody ever alluded to me as being like a Yankee or having moved down here. It's like, listen, all right, you motherfuckers are coming from all over the world to New York City, to this place where I lived and I've made my home.
Right.
So don't talk to me about people transplanting.
Right. Well, yeah, the thing that's also interesting is like the whole Yankee or Southerner, like I've lived in the South all my life, and yet it's not like I'm wearing bib overalls and no shoes,
right? Some hayseed.
Yeah. So the Yankee thing, I guess we're expecting you to roll down, all aggressive. They talk real fast, they drive real fast, they got no manners,
Which is true in a lot of instances, but
that's
in a lot
true
of
everywhere,
instances, right? And also in a lot of instances, it's not true.
Yeah.
Like there are plenty of people. And it's funny to see Emily switch. Too, because having grown up in Charlotte, she has that's inherent to her.
Oh, yeah.
But she also lived in New York for 15 years.
Yeah, no.
So when we go back to New York and visit, she turns it on, and when it's time to get shit done, it's time to get shit done.
No, I get the, there's a distinct difference in my driving habits once I get north of Richmond, Virginia.
Also in your blood pressure.
Oh my God!
You got white-knuckled on the.
I hadn't gone to DC for a while. I hadn't gone really anywhere for a while until like maybe a year ago or something, because we had a kid and you're kind of in this bunker for a while, and I got like there, and Shannon was driving. It was my turn, and it was right past Richmond, and I got in the car. I thought either I was going to have a brain hemorrhage or an anxiety attack. Or I was just going to run into somebody. Like just close my eyes and step on the gas.
And it happens as soon as you pass Richmond.
Yeah.
As soon as you go through that little winding section of 95.
The clock tower.
Yes.
That's always like
it gets crazy. Everything leading up to that is beautiful. 85 is beautiful.
It's nice and flat, and then it starts winding, and then people. It's like
and it's pandemonium. It's like Mad Max.
The asshole comes out.
Yeah,
it's like and everybody. I mean, I will turn different. My face will turn different shades of purple and red, and the language that comes out of my mouth.
I still get streaky with that down here though, because people down here don't know how to merge. And Emily,
I've noticed here. The one thing I noticed about versus Virginia, I don't know why. But I would see in North Carolina versus Virginia like these like crazy, like, oh, I'm on the far left. Oh, there's my exit, and then just like 4-lane merge.
Yeah,
shoom, man. I was like, no way.
Yeah,
no way.
No, it's whenever we get on the highway and there's somebody stopped in the merge. Like I have the Jersey in me comes out very quick, and I've I've tried to suppress it to an extent. But if it comes out anywhere, it's behind the wheel.
So you mentioned a couple times we talked about a book. You're working on a book.
Yeah, it's done-ish. I'm trying to currently find an agent, I guess, is the next step, which is cool because I have so much experience and I've lived so much in the music business that I'm kind of dipping my toe into this new world, and it's different in that, like, pretty much all agents are open to unsolicited.
That must be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not the case in the record.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Like, they want you to submit your manuscript or your query, at least. And they, who knows how many of them actually read it. I'm sure, a lot of it is assistants, or a lot of them don't even read it at all. But it's this whole thing, but at the same time, they must be inundated because at least in music, there's a barrier for entry. You at least have to know how to play an instrument.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But to write, you need a pen.
Right.
And that's kind of it. Any asshole could write a book. It's not necessarily the case. It's not the case.
That's the title of your work?
Exactly. I wrote, I just kind of, so after my mother, so I've always written, I've always been a writer, and always, made money doing it, and had, not success, but, I've done some cool stuff. And when my mother passed away, the well kind of just dried up. And I would sit down at my computer and nothing came out. And it wasn't writer's block. I don't believe writer's block is a thing. When it comes to music or when it comes to writing or any of that, I believe there are times when you produce a lot better work.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I don't necessarily know if I would ever say block as much as, like, I'm not interested in what I have to say, and I'm kind of wondering if anybody else would either.
Right.
So why bother?
So a couple of years after my mom died, I woke up. It was actually after we moved here, and I woke up and I just went downstairs and I just started kind of typing away at the story, and eventually it was like, holy shit, like I have 80,000 words here.
Nice.
So I'm trying to find a home for it, trying to find somebody who wants to, because everybody's like, oh, you got to self-publish. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe, if that's the case. But I would first like to see if I could find somebody who could do it for me. Because I've never made a book before. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I've made records before. I could put out records in my sleep.
Right, yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully, I would like to find an agent and a proper publisher, even if it's a small. But it was, it was a fun experience, and it's about how I was finally making a real record in a real studio with John Aniello, who did all the Dinosaur Jr. records, all the Sonic, later Sonic Youth records, who was one of my heroes as a kid. He's as far as I'm concerned, the dude's a legendary producer and engineer. So I was finally making a record with him, and that was when I got the call to go run home because Mom was officially dying after 5 years of battle.
Right. No, I remember that.
So the book is kind of about that, but then about the vigil that we had over the last 2 weeks of her life, and real light reading. So
now he did that. Was that the guy that did like a lot of the Fort Apache up in Boston?
Yes.
Okay.
I think
Was that Fort Apache? I think it was, because it was in such a horrible part of town that they called it Fort Apache. Yeah. Or probably a really nice place, and it's got instead of the studio, there's like a Starbucks and a Chipotle.
Right, of course, because we need more of those.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about that. It's it's, I don't know. I'm kind of a workaholic too.
Okay.
And that Emily likes to make fun of me because if I'm not constantly moving forward, I go crazy.
You get like twitchy.
And she's like, there was one point last summer where I was like, I'm not fucking doing anything. Like, what am I like? I got to get my ass in gear. She's like, dude, you're making a record.
Yeah.
You just wrote a fucking book.
Yeah.
Like you're
Calm down.
You're working like 8 jobs. You're writing for different magazines and blogs, and you're doing all these band bios that I was writing. And she's like, you're doing plenty. So yeah, hopefully, we'll see.
It's like you're not doing too little. You're doing too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I give myself, I don't give myself, but I have a good 10 or 15 minute time limit on the couch before I start getting twitchy and looking for things to do and projects to do. And
well, that's all about to change, so that'll be great.
So I'm told.
Yeah. That'll be wonderful.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah.
We have, let's see, my phone is off.
What, so
4 weeks, I think.
Okay. So, you ready? You all prepped and everything?
We're not ready.
No, okay.
Are you ready ever to have a first kid?
You kinda.
We're ready in the sense that his room is done.
Uh-huh.
We have lots of clothes.
Okay.
We are not. I don't know what to expect. And I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine last night, and it's like when your life changes, it's often in ways that you don't foresee.
Oh, totally.
Someone dies, or you got this job that just kind of materializes, but I've never experienced in my life that my life is going to change, and I know that it's going to change, but I have no idea how.
Well, you know it's going to be big, but you don't know what big means.
Exactly.
That's,
exactly. So to have this kid coming, that like I know what it means, but I have no idea what it means.
I was really pleased when we had Dash because I got to look out of the movie. It was like about 11 or something like that, maybe later, maybe midnight. We got to go.
Yeah.
And in the car and drive down to UNC, and I was so stressed. Got to get there, and I blew through that red light by the Carolina Inn.
You okay?
And make that left.
Yep.
And then woo. I slowed down enough, rolled down the window, I'm like, I got a pregnant lady here. And he's like, go ahead, you need an escort. It was like something out of a movie.
Did he give you an escort?
I think he did. Did I get an escort? Yes, I did. Okay, yeah.
We just found out that our boy is due the day of the Duke Carolina game.
Uh-oh.
And the only building between us and the hospital is the Dean Dome.
Oh, man.
So, and we were joking how it's going to be the shortest airlift of all time. Because traffic for the game of Carolina games isn't that bad. It's nothing like, but it's bad. But it is bad. There's a lot of traffic, and quite literally, there's like 3 buildings between us and the hospital, and one of them is the arena.
You're like,
and
this could be a problem.
well, the funniest part was we had a doctor's appointment, and I made that joke to the doctor, and he said, "Oh, don't worry, they'll have the game on the TV in the hospital." I said,
no, that's what I was trying to say.
That's
not my concern.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. All right, if the game is on and Emily's in labor, yeah, I'll peek at the game. I'll watch the game, I'm sure, unless the baby's coming. But that's not what I'm trying. That's not what I'm trying to get at here. What I'm saying is, I don't want my child to be born in the back of my pickup truck because there's so much traffic. So
you could maybe, some of the fans leaving will be able to offer medical assistance because there will be doctors.
well, she was saying, or one of the other doctors was saying that when they have game nights, they have a labor and delivery nurse on call to go out with the ambulances because the traffic gets so crazy.
Man, well, at least they're thinking of you, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so he's coming, whether you like it or not, and I have no idea what to expect. And I've been avoiding the books because I know there's a lot of good information in the books. I'm not knocking the books. I'm a voracious reader. But I don't want to get to a point where we're like, well, this is happening. Okay.
Right.
Wait a minute. The book said this would be happening. Why isn't that happening?
Don't get hung up on the books.
So
right?
I haven't bothered with the books. Emily's read some books, but she's super in tune with her body, so it's been good. It's been awesome so far, and we can't wait.
So obviously, don't share it. But do you have a name?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Do you have a backup, or do you like?
No, that's it.
You got it. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, that's good.
And we found out super early on, which is funny because Emily is considered at the tender age of 36, quote,
Advanced
maternal
maternal.
age.
Yeah.
So we got all the
Heard that
tests
one.
very early. And we found out that he was a boy, I think in like week 10.
Yeah.
Because they did chromosome testing.
Yeah.
It's been, we've had everything. And so Emily's Jewish, and they have a thing, I guess, which I didn't realize, where they don't like to do anything until the baby's here.
Okay.
So a lot of her friends and family, they didn't pick out the name, or they didn't do the room.
Oh, okay.
Whereas,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then neither did I. And whereas I, on the other side of the coin, come from a big Italian American family.
So I'm just guessing you're Catholic, or coming from a Catholic
coming
background.
from a Catholic family for sure, where it's like we're looking for any reason to celebrate, So as soon as we found out he was coming, that she was pregnant, I was doing the room, and I was
more Chianti.
I'm telling you, I had a name a list a mile long of names. Emily was like, dude, just pump the brakes. Like, we got 8.5 months to go.
So did you like how many names of the what were saints' names? Because that's where you gotta, you feel like you gotta go there. Right?
Well, yeah, and a lot of those are taken by my cousins. So we can't.
Oh, okay. So
you know,
are they more traditionally
big time, big time. So
Italian-American?
when Emily and I first met, I was like, listen, like you only really have to remember like John, Christopher.
Paulie,
But,
Peter.
yeah, of course, Anthony.
Right.
Which I strongly campaigned for to name our son, but Emily was not.
You don't
having
call
it.
him Anthony, call him Anthony.
Anthony. She said that. She said that's way too Italian.
Wah,
So,
wah,
yeah.
wah, wah.
He's gonna come out with slick back hair and
Does he like has a little ring?
a little
on his
pinky
finger?
ring
Yeah,
and,
pinky ring.
and a gold pendant on. But yeah, no, it's just having that conversation with my friend last night and just talking, like saying I know it's coming and I know my life is gonna be, but it's the weirdest sensation. I think one of the weirdest sensations I've ever had in my life is just knowing, but not knowing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like remember have you been overseas? You've been to Europe. You
Yeah.
know, it's like remember when you were the first time you went.
Oh wow, yeah, okay. For first of all, I just said yeah, even though I haven't. So I've never been overseas.
Oh, you never have.
Yeah.
Oh, or just anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
where
I
it's
get
like
it.
but like I don't,
You don't know the scope of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest scope there could possibly be, I would assume. So,
The desert, I felt like that.
right.
I went to when Shannon turned hit an anniversary of a birth date. We went to Vegas. We did the Vegas thing.
Oh, nice.
I can say okay. She turned 40, but that's okay because I'm 40. I'm almost 48. But we went to Vegas and we were going to go to Joshua Tree.
Cool.
So we did the Joshua Tree thing, and we went to the Joshua Tree Motor Inn, where Graham Parsons kicked it.
Yep.
Where Graham Parsons kicked it.
Yep.
But so to get there, you gotta drive across the desert.
To go at night.
And during the day, and it is just like I've been in the desert. I've been to New Mexico. I've
Okay.
been in Colorado. This is a different thing. I noticed. The other thing that was strange, and I had heard about, was these things called the San Giordano windmills.
Okay.
So you come out of the Mojave, you go past Joshua Tree. We were heading down we got fancy for a day or two. I went to like one of those resort towns right near Palm Springs.
Sure.
Right? There's this thing called I think it's the San Giordano Pass or whatever, but these giant windmills.
Okay.
Right, the wind turbines, whatever they're called, and they're like these mechanical arms and stuff. It's like something out of a I don't know, like War of the Worlds. It's just this really kind of
Because
futuristic stuff, I think.
there's nothing else.
So you're driving, yeah, and then you take this right. It's like a merge, and you're curving right at a fairly extreme angle. And there's these things off to the left as you're turning like this, and it's just whoa,
Bizarre.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you're like, this is different. I mean, I knew this was going to be different, but
Yeah.
didn't know this was going to be like this.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, I always tell people when they're going to the desert for the first time, if they're driving into the desert at night, pull over and just turn the car off and turn the lights off.
oh yeah,
Because
the
there's
stars,
no
yeah.
dark you've ever seen around here or in New York or New Jersey. There's dark out there that doesn't exist anywhere else, and I love it out there too because it's like it's the only place. So most of the country's kind of the same,
Yes,
more or less.
Unfortunately,
from the bird's eye view, there are tons of subtleties and tons of
right.
nuance, but more or less
Yeah.
until you get to the desert. The desert
That's-
is truly.
one
you
of these
feel
is not like the other.
Right,
yeah.
right, and I love that. I love, one of my dreams was we never took a honeymoon. We went this past November. We finally went to LA because I was touring very heavily when we got married, and I think I left like the week after we got married to do like a 6-week tour.
Yeah.
But my dream was to fly to LA and drive home with Emily because she's never taken a
Right.
cross country trip, and I've only been cross country on tours,
Right.
where you don't have time to do the cool
Right,
shit.
right.
'cause
Oh,
you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
hustle into the next show.
Hey, largest dirt mound. We got to stop.
I'm a sucker for that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And but not unfortunately. I mean, it's the most fortunate thing ever. She was pregnant when we finally did take our honeymoon, and she's like, "Listen, I have to pee every 10 minutes."
Right. Not gonna happen, man.
You know, a 7-day road trip is not the best
Yeah.
idea. So we just went and hung out in LA. But someday,
Yeah. So
someday.
then you take your kid with you.
totally.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he'll have to pee every 5 minutes.
Well, the thing I liked about the desert too. Well, actually, there was this one time I was in New Mexico and I was going across. Oh, it was actually the Dia de los Muertos, the Dead Man's Walk, between I think it was Alamogordo, on the way to Alamogordo, maybe. And it's near where they blew up. It's like near one of the Trinity sites. Driving there, I see this rest area. Oh, great. Well, all it is a friggin' picnic table off on the side of the road, and it's like one of those old school, like, I don't know, Hardee's, where the table, the things that hold the table up also curve out and support the bench.
Right.
So it's like this kind of weird reverse froggy like thing. So yeah, but fortunately, since you're in the desert, you can look about 20 miles in either direction. So it was a really I'm just gonna use the restroom right here.
Yeah.
It's all good. Yeah. So he would enjoy that, I bet.
Yeah. No,
once he's older.
it's wild, and pulling over and seeing, just seeing like normal street signs like beware of rattlesnakes.
That's not something I want to see though when I need to pee.
Right. It's funny. Last time we toured through Arizona, we stopped, and again, the town I grew up in is tiny, and we stopped in Arizona, and this guy pulls up next to us, and he's like, "We had New York plates because I kept the van in New York," and he's like, "You guys from New York?" I said, "Actually, we're from Jersey." He said, "Oh yeah, where at?" I said, "Yeah, you would never have heard of it if I told you." He said, "Try me." I said, "It's a town called Tuckerton." He goes, "Oh yeah, I lived in Bass River, which is like the next town over."
You're like, whoa.
In friggin' Arizona. But then we started talking about the rattlesnake signs.
Like they don't have that in Jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. So one last question, I guess.
Yes.
So I noticed on Facebook you say this year in addition to the 8,000 other things you're doing, and having a major life event, you're going to put out records. As I saw this thing, I want to put out records by other people, not just me.
Totally. Yeah, I'm in the process of. Don't hold me to it because it could all fall apart.
I was going to say
at any minute, like all record labels do.
Right.
No, I'm going to start putting out records in this year. Just people that because there are so many people, so many friends that I've helped get in touch with people in the music business.
Facilitate.
Yeah. Helped get them record deals, helped sign them with agents. But for every one of those people, there's 20 friends who I've tried to help who didn't have success.
Yeah.
Dude, like, hey man, like this is my buddy does A&R over at this huge record label. Like, check this band out. And there's just a lot of people I believe in and believe that their records should be out. Maybe not. I'm not going to be in a position where we're going to do full press and marketing campaigns. It's like
I don't hear a single.
Right. It's like I want to put these records out and do them in the way that I would do my record.
Right.
In that, like, let's try and focus it around a place, try and make some cool shit happen, and go from there. And
which hopefully was the beginning of all record labels.
Right. And ideally, and again, I'm sure this will change with every passing minute, but what I would like to do is focus it around here physically.
Okay.
I'm sure that'll change as soon as I hear a good record from New Jersey or Oregon.
Do you ever feel the call from Jersey
to go back?
Yeah, or just you spend more time up there?
I do. I miss the beach. You
have beaches here, man.
I know.
It's not the same,
I miss my beach.
You miss the boardwalk? Is it the boardwalk experience?
We didn't have a boardwalk.
Oh man!
No.
So you were like
Just
you're like
straight
the
beach,
anti-Springsteen.
just hanging out in the sand. But I think those labels that kind of operate in that there's something very important about those labels that are documenting kind of what's happening in a place. And that's how a lot of labels. I mean, that's how Merge started. That's how Matador was pretty much a New York City label.
Right.
Now they're Matador, but they were representing and documenting what was happening in New York City at a certain time.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of cool stuff happening in this town that a lot of it needs to be documented. And hopefully I can do that or help do that.
Cool.
I have this vision of myself in the corner office with like a cigar,
right?
Just burning money.
Monocle. Do you have a monocle?
Yeah, I do. And the whatever you call those, the garters on the sleeves.
Right.
Just burning piles of money because that's how the record business works.
Out of your 60-story building in downtown Chapel Hill.
Totally. A buddy of mine once recently asked me like, why do you have to tour, man? Like I thought you guys sold records.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Who sells records now?
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully, I'm kind of developing a plan. I would like to do, maybe two records this year, maybe double it by next year.
Right.
Just work my way up to because when I was at Matador, we were part of the Beggars Group, and I worked for Matador Direct, which was Matador's like in-house distribution.
Right.
But I also worked for the Beggars Group, so I was working for Matador, 4AD, XL, Rough Trade,
Okay.
and True Panther.
All right.
And just the amount of records that we were putting out was fucking insane.
Yeah.
And
Like you should just be a distribution company.
it was
then.
just,
Yeah.
it was, and if you took any one of those labels, it was fine because they were
Right.
putting out 8 to 10 records a year.
Right.
But, you know, you're talking about 40 to 50 records a year.
Yeah.
And then I did a short stint working at Yep Rock last year, and it was nice. It was like, oh, we're putting out 5 records this year.
Yeah, I worked for them like 20 years ago. Back
Did
in,
you?
like, they're coming out of a small house on Old Leicester Road.
Okay. Yeah, I was there for a couple months, and I realized I needed to step away from the record business.
Oh yeah, no, I
for a
understand
minute.
that. Yeah.
But now, you know, and again, like I'm the kind of guy that like I'm not going to be happy unless I'm doing my thing.
That's like I think a thing that never gets paid attention to sometimes because it's. I mean, people. I've never been like. I mean, I've managed and booked and all that kind of stuff, and you know, you really passion really gets under served, I guess. I mean, and believe me, I think being in the industry side, the business side of it, if you don't, I mean, the music industry will make you hate music.
Oh, totally.
You know, by the way it sort of reduces.
By the
you
time
know.
I left Matador, I was like, I was
hear
skipping a
more
lot of
music.
shows. I was skipping festivals. Like, oh,
Yeah.
dude, let's go to Coachella. I don't want to go to Coachella. Like,
Screw that, man.
and I hate festivals, but you know, but again, like I've always been a firm believer that like,
Yeah, if you're not
and-
interested.
well, not only that, but like if you're gonna spend so much of your time doing some kind of work, I'd want it to be my work.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to spend my life making somebody else's dreams come true. In that, like, unless I'm making their dreams come true by putting out their records, you know, like.
Yeah, or you know, you feel like by making their dreams come true, you're sort of making your dream come true.
Right.
you know?
And for a lot of people that's life, you know, and that's great that people find security.
Yeah.
And but you know, if you had to make me choose from a nuts and bolts perspective to start this label and hopefully, knock on wood, God willing, it grows to a point in 5 or 10 years, if I could make 30 or 40 or 50 grand a year as a label, not even me, like I'd be ecstatic. I would take that any day over the week over working for some schmo making 100 grand a year.
Right. Yeah.
You know, just because, again, like if I'm going to devote 40 to 50 to 60 to 70 hours out of my week in my life, extrapolate that over a lifetime.
Right.
It's going to be something that's from me. You
Right,
know?
yeah.
So hopefully this will be the next chapter. Again, we'll see. It could all fall apart.
And on that optimistic note.
Yeah, exactly. But so can everything else.
Yeah. Well.
So keep an eye out.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by and chatting, and best of luck in 4 weeks.
Thanks for having me. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
Cool.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not the one with dreams made of silver and of gold. I watch you grow old. It wasn't fair how they left you there. They knew that no one would come to your rescue. I begged for